Welcome back. This time we're talking about the 5th episode of Disney XD's DuckTales series, Terror of the Terra-Firmians. This episode essentially picks up shortly after the last one, with Lena, Webby's friend, now joining our group. As the episode opens, they're leaving a kind of low-budget horror film that Webby and Lena really enjoyed. Horrified Miss Beakley for bringing children to go see it, annoyed most of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and absolutely terrified Launchpad, who subsequently and through the entire episode begins to assume that anyone and everyone are mole people. But aside from providing some hilarious moments with Launchpad, going to see the movie sparks a debate between Webby and Huey about other monsters and how they're not real, which results in Webby talking about the Terra-Firmians, these people she believes lives underneath Duckburg, and has come up with this whole theory on how they're in this perpetual war, and that there's this prince out there that's raising a rebellion to save the day, and all this other stuff. And Huey, who is basically the Boy Scout of the group, literally the Boy Scout of the group, won't believe anything that's not in his book. Although his book does include things that he's written in himself, after which he admits after Webby calls him on all the strange things they've already seen so far in this series. So ultimately, Webby, Lena, and Huey head down into the subway to try to find these Terra-Firmians. And at least amongst the brothers, Huey takes the lead this episode, making up for the fact that he didn't appear at all in the Great Dime Chase episode. This ultimately leads to a lot of fun adventures, in which they actually do meet some odd subterranean creatures that are most likely not the Terra-Firmians that Webby had probably made up, as we see that one of their group had done the same thing about the people living above the surface, in a pretty hilarious moment. A lot of the heart in this episode came in two parts. The first being Mrs. Beakley's interactions with Lena, who she sees as a bad influence on her granddaughter, which is mostly true considering we found out at the end of the last episode that Lena is a plant for her aunt, Magica Dispel, and is trying to infiltrate Duck Manor. But we also get to see that she's not completely under the influence of her aunt, disobeying her by saving Miss Beakley using the magical medallion around her neck. And we get to learn that she actually has some control over magic as well. But we also get to see that her aunt is essentially spying on all of this through Lena's shadow. The second really emotional moment was near the end, when Huey kind of accepts that not everything is going to be written in the book, and sometimes they have to face the unknown. It was actually sort of a kind of a heady moment for what had, for the most part, been a pretty hilarious episode, and I really liked how they handled it. I loved the popcorn audience throughout the whole thing. But I really liked how they handled that episode. I mean, they didn't just ruin it with a throwaway joke. There was some comedy thrown in at the end, but there were some points to be made. It was like in the previous episode when I talked about how Webby dealing with joining a pre-existing group and the already manufactured inside jokes and all that. And that's something that children and adults have to deal with. And this idea of putting down the book and facing the unknown, I really liked how they handled that, and I've liked how the writing has handled these issues throughout this show so far. The episode ends with Miss Beakley apologizing to Lena for her assumptions and inviting her to Duck Manor to have pancakes, and we get to end with Lena talking to her aunt. Her aunt was upset that she had disobeyed her, but then happy that she ultimately got what they wanted in the end through a different route. And Lena throws out the line, I'm running the long con. And I don't really believe that at this moment. I think Lena definitely has some doubts growing within her over whatever her mission is and whatever her aunt wants. And it'll be interesting, as I said previously, how they handle that moving forward. in a kid's show, it's very rare that the plant is ultimately going to be totally evil. That just doesn't happen too often. So odds are she's going to grow to really care about Webby and the brothers and everyone else, and probably side with them against her aunt. But we don't know yet, and we don't know how long they're going to carry this story forward. I was a little surprised that Lena had such a prominent role so early after her introduction. I don't know if they're planning on this to be sort of a internal arc within this season, or if they're going to let it grow moving forward or not. We'll just have to wait till the next episode to see how big a role Lena continues to play. But overall, this was another episode I really enjoyed. Had some great emotional moments, had some hilarious moments. We got to see some more of Launchpad, which we really haven't gotten too much of since the pilot. And as I keep saying, I really, really enjoy this show. So let me turn it over to you. What did you think of this episode? What were your favorite moments? And what do you think of the Lena arc, and moving forward, what do you expect is going to happen? As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some other reviews, and until next time, don't feel bad about getting a refill on the way out.